While the world fixates on the dramatic 12-day Israel-Iran war and its aftermath, there's one critical catastrophe unfolding that 99% of observers are completely missing, and it's about to reshape global power dynamics in ways no one is predicting. Myanmar's perfect storm. The earthquake that nobody saw coming on June 27, 2025, as analysts dissected the Middle Eastern ceasefire and counted the costs of the Iran-Israel confrontation. A seismic shift was occurring both literally and figuratively in Myanmar. The recent earthquake that killed nearly 4,000 people wasn't just a natural disaster. It was the catalyst that will determine who controls the world's technological future. The perspective 99% of people are missing while geopolitical attention remains laser-focused on oil pipelines and nuclear facilities in the Middle East. Myanmar's civil war has quietly evolved into something far more consequential. The battle for global technological supremacy disguised as a domestic conflict. The recent earthquake didn't just destroy infrastructure. It shattered the delicate balance that has kept Myanmar's $1.4 billion rare earth mineral trade flowing to China. Here's what no one is acknowledging. Myanmar controls some of the world's most critical rare earth deposits, and the rebel groups, not the Chinese-backed junta, now control the majority of these mines. The earthquake has created a power vacuum that will determine whether China maintains its stranglehold on rare earth supplies or whether the global tech supply chain gets completely restructured. Connecting the dots, nobody wants to see the timing of Myanmar's escalating chaos isn't coincidental. As the world became mesmerized by Iranian missiles and Israeli airstrikes, three seemingly unrelated events converged to create a perfect storm. First, China demanded elections in Myanmar within the next 10 months as a condition for continued support of the junta. Beijing calculated that legitimizing the military government would eventually restore stability to their rare earth supply lines. But the earthquake changed everything. Second, the natural disaster has left both the government and rebel forces struggling to maintain control over mining operations. Production has plummeted just as global demand for rare earth minerals reaches unprecedented levels, driven by the AI revolution and green energy transitions worldwide. Third, and most crucially, the Myanmar crisis is unfolding precisely as China faces increasing pressure from U.S. trade policies and needs to secure its technological supply chains more than ever. The silent winners nobody talks about: Australia, the obvious beneficiary while Myanmar bleeds. Australia's rare earth industry is experiencing unprecedented investment flows. Companies like Lynas Rare Earths have seen their valuations soar as manufacturers desperately seek alternatives to Chinese-controlled supplies. The Myanmar chaos has effectively handed Australia a monopoly on non-Chinese rare earth production, positioning Canberra as the kingmaker in global tech supply chains. India, the strategic opportunist New Delhi, has quietly positioned itself as the alternative processing hub for rare earth minerals. While China dominated both extraction and processing, India has been building sophisticated separation facilities. Myanmar's instability forces global manufacturers to diversify, and India's geographic proximity makes it the natural choice for companies fleeing Chinese dependency. The military-industrial complex, profiting from all sides, here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to discuss. Arms dealers are supplying weapons to every faction in Myanmar's civil war. While the junta receives Chinese military support, rebel groups are being armed through complex networks involving Thailand, India, and even Western suppliers operating through intermediaries. The earthquake has intensified fighting for control of mining areas, creating a bonanza for weapons manufacturers. What no one dares to acknowledge: the Myanmar earthquake wasn't just a humanitarian catastrophe. It was a geopolitical earthquake that will redefine global power structures. China's strategy of controlling rare earth supplies through client states is collapsing, and Beijing knows that the upcoming elections that China demanded aren't about democracy or legitimacy. They're a desperate attempt to create a stable government that can restore mining operations before alternative supply chains become permanently established. But here's the reverse thinking insight. the elections will likely trigger more violence. Not less, the underground economy lens analyze how weapons, energy, and resource markets are shifting, and a disturbing pattern emerges. Myanmar's rare earth mines have become the new Afghanistan, a resource-rich territory where proxy conflicts determine global strategic balances. Chinese companies are reportedly paying protection money to rebel groups to keep some mines operational. Indian intelligence agencies are providing logistical support to factions that promise favorable mining agreements. Even Japanese and South Korean corporations, desperate for rare earth security, are funding various groups through shell companies. The earthquake damaged critical infrastructure, but it also destroyed the informal agreements that allowed different factions to coexist around mining sites. Now it's a free-for-all, and every global power wants their faction to win. Historical pattern recognition: this isn't the first time a natural disaster has triggered a geopolitical realignment. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami led to major shifts in Southeast Asian power dynamics. The 2008 Sichuan earthquake in China temporarily disrupted rare earth production, leading to the first major price spikes that alerted the world to Chinese dominance. But Myanmar 2025 represents something new. A convergence of natural disaster, civil war, and global supply chain vulnerability that creates opportunities for permanent restructuring of technological dependencies. The pattern is clear. Every major technological transition requires a corresponding shift in resource control. The steam age required coal dominance. The oil age required petroleum control. The digital age requires rare earth supremacy. Myanmar's earthquake has just triggered the battle for the AI age. The mass psychology perspective: why does global media ignore Myanmar while obsessing over Middle Eastern conflicts? The answer reveals uncomfortable truths about information warfare and strategic misdirection. Oil conflicts generate dramatic visuals: burning refineries, missile strikes, naval confrontations. Rare earth mining disputes happen in remote mountainous regions with no dramatic footage. The global public can understand oil's importance. Rare earth minerals remain mysteriously technical. But here's the deeper psychological manipulation. Keeping public attention focused on traditional energy conflicts while technological supply chains get quietly reorganized serves the interests of emerging powers. While everyone watches Middle Eastern drama, the real power is shifting in Southeast Asian mountains. 50-year future perspective viewed from 2075, the Myanmar earthquake of 2025 will be remembered as the moment China's technological hegemony began to crumble, just as the 1973 oil crisis marked the beginning of American energy vulnerability. Myanmar's chaos signals the end of Chinese rare earth dominance. The earthquake created a 12-month window of opportunity. By 2026, alternative supply chains will be established. Processing facilities will be operational outside China, and the global tech industry will have permanently diversified its mineral sources. China's response will be predictable: attempt to restore control through proxies, offer massive reconstruction aid to gain mining concessions, and potentially escalate to direct intervention if other methods fail. But the window is closing rapidly. The next strategic moves, if this analysis proves correct, will witness 3 major developments within 6 months. First, Chinese military advisors will suddenly appear in Myanmar, ostensibly for earthquake relief but actually to secure mining areas. Beijing cannot afford to lose rare earth control while facing American technology sanctions. Second, India will announce major infrastructure investments in rare earth processing, positioning itself as the democratic alternative to Chinese supplies. New Delhi will offer Myanmar's rebel groups something Beijing cannot: legitimacy in Western markets. Third, Japan, South Korea, and even European nations will establish humanitarian aid operations that coincidentally focus on mining regions. The earthquake provides perfect cover for what amounts to a resource grab disguised as disaster relief. The reality behind the information smokescreen: here's what the carefully orchestrated information campaigns are hiding. Myanmar's earthquake didn't just kill 4,000 people and destroy infrastructure. It destroyed China's ability to guarantee technological supply security to its domestic industries. Every smartphone, electric vehicle, wind turbine, and military drone depends on rare earth minerals. Controlling these supplies means controlling the pace and direction of technological development globally. The earthquake has just thrown that control into question for the first time in decades. The upcoming elections aren't about Myanmar's political future. They're about who controls the technological future of Asia. And while everyone watches ceasefire negotiations in the Middle East, the real battle for global dominance is being fought in Myanmar's earthquake-damaged mountains. When we flip the lens, the conventional analysis focuses on Myanmar's humanitarian crisis and political instability. The reverse-thinking perspective reveals a carefully orchestrated competition for technological supremacy, with the earthquake serving as an unexpected catalyst that accelerated existing geopolitical tensions. China's rare earth dominance was always vulnerable to supply disruptions. The earthquake just exposed that vulnerability at the worst possible moment, when global tech demand is exploding and alternative suppliers are finally ready to scale up production. Myanmar's tragedy will become Asia's opportunity. The earthquake that killed thousands will ultimately liberate global technology from Chinese control. That's the brutal calculus of geopolitical reverse thinking that 99% of observers refuse to acknowledge. The next phase of global power competition won't be fought over oil fields or shipping lanes. It will be decided in Myanmar's mountains, where earthquake-damaged mines hold the key to technological independence. And while the world debates Middle Eastern ceasefires, the real winners are quietly positioning themselves for the post-Chinese rare earth world.